Hi, Dr. Wiley, and whoever might be watching this in the future. This is Megan Herman, and this is my individual reflection on the Community Engagement Project. I was part of the team that worked on the discussion guide for intersectionality, and I apologize in advance for my voice. My allergies have been really bad these past couple of days as the weather's been like heating up and staying hot, but I hope it doesn't take away from the message or anything we're trying to talk about. So first I'll start with my contributions to the project. I tried to be as helpful to the rest of the group as I possibly could throughout everything. I helped the group brainstorm ideas for our project, and I was there at every single group meeting that we had. We had a couple before the project was due just to discuss what we were going to do, who was going to do it, how we were feeling, just like a basic check-in. And I was there for every single one, tried to be present and offering encouragement to my teammates and help whenever they need it. But everybody was really awesome and didn't really need that extra support. But we were all always there for each other. Myself and Anna filled in for our group leader, Lauren, at a meeting with you when Lauren wasn't available, just to update you on our progress. And I was able to show you the website. And with that, I collected all of the resources of my other teammates to compile them into our Weebly website. I first had to look through and figure out what server we were going to use to host our website, and I chose Weebly because it would make a really great design for both desktop and mobile viewers of the website. And I know something that we've been working on a lot in this class especially is just making things accessible for people. And especially with topics around intersectionality that people don't discuss as much as they should, you have to make those resources accessible to them or they probably won't get utilized, unfortunately. So trying to find the best sort of browser server to host the website on. And I created the website entirely by myself with like the design wise, but all of the content pretty much is from the other group members, except for the section in our website about getting involved with other organizations at JMU. I completed that part on just to take that off of somebody else's back because I realized that the website design was like a lot of fun and I felt like maybe other people were struggling. So I said, I'll find some groups on campus. I'll put their contact info into the website just so people had an opportunity to get involved with intersectionality after they had the conversation and were able to engage. All right, and then reflections and lessons that I learned from this project. I think that the project was super impactful for me because I was able to engage, obviously, with the class concepts like intersectionality outside of the classroom and really take a look at what it's supposed to look like to incorporate these concepts into your daily life and conversations. And I think without this project, I definitely would have understood intersectionality because I already had a basic understanding of what it was and had engaged with different activities like the ones that we included as part of our discussion guide before with different groups. But I think being able to think about what it's like to start fresh as somebody who's never heard about intersectionality and what does that person need in order to understand and feel included in the conversation, and to be somebody who already has a complete understanding is maybe a diversity educator. What does it look like for them? How can they still get something out of these activities, even though they've probably done similar, if not the same activities before, been in these rooms before and had these conversations before? So how do we make something that is accessible to everyone? Because that's what it's supposed to be. So that was definitely challenging, but in a good way, because it really got all of us to think about what it means. Even intersectionality, the term itself, like what does it mean to have different levels of experience and knowledge? Because at a certain point, having experience and knowledge on certain topics is like a privilege. There might be people who want, to be more involved with diversity, but they don't have the privilege of going to a 4-year university that really engages with these topics. So how do we approach all of these people and give them that same understanding and respect? And I've almost always been in those spaces where intersectionality was known about or at least respected, but I might not always be. And I definitely think that members of the community might not always be. So it's important to have these guides because you need to know where you're going to start with a conversation like this from people on a bunch of different levels, and to try to keep the conversation as respectful as possible. It's obviously a hot button issue, and we need to learn to be more respectful of others when we talk about these things, and hopefully this guide gives that baseline for how to do that, to make these conversations effective instead of it turning into misunderstanding and hateful words and things like that. Especially on college campuses. This was really aimed at JMU students and clubs and organizations, but we figured out it could really be for anyone. But especially on a college campus, there's so many different rich identities, and I think we often assume too much about one another based on appearances and stereotypes. But when we break down those layers and those identities and embrace one another for our differences instead of judging each other for them, we begin a really crucial process of moving forward to create a more inclusive university as a whole, which is incredibly important. And I hope that this guide is able to help as many different clubs and orgs as possible, especially as with the events of the past year, bringing conversations to light that have been needed to be brought to light for much longer than just within the past year and a half, but haven't been. It's new, uncharted waters for a lot of people. So being able to have those discussions effectively is super important, because it's not enough just to have the conversation. It needs to be one that's engaging and educational and impactful on a different level. And my advice to people who complete this project in the future is to not be afraid to reach out to campus partners or other organizations, even if you don't have a strong connection, even if Dr. Wiley isn't able to give you a direct connection, because, the worst response you could get is a no. But the best response you could get is something that really helps you out and helps to make your project more impactful, which is what's most important. And when you can have in-person events again, of course have them, but still offer a virtual alternative if possible, because that helps with accessibility. And the people who aren't engaging with these concepts in their daily life are not necessarily going to want to go to an in-person event, but they might show up to your Zoom event, and that will really help them. Those are the people we're trying to get to. And obviously intersectionality is a theme in our course, but we really need to look at the impacts that intersectionality has in our lives and our politics, especially within politics. Politicians with intersecting identities definitely face those double and triple barriers that we talked about in class. So, a white woman politician faces completely different barriers than a black woman politician, a black Muslim woman politician. There are all these identities that interlap, and politicians have to be able to embrace their different identities in order to be able to substantively represent their constituents. So I definitely think that being able to embrace your identities and be a political leader or have a political sphere where there's empathy and understanding for identities is absolutely crucial in order to create better representation for all, and a political system where people feel that they're able to embrace their true selves, because there's no one cookie cutter American, no matter how many people want to make it so. And so there shouldn't be one cookie cutter representative, and we should all be able to express those different identities to help one another and provide just a better life for everyone. So thank you so much, and that was my reflection.